What is up, my guys and gals? It's your boy SJ Raikou. So, as you guys all know, I threw a bit of a hissy fit a while back about this death battle where Tetsuo lost towards Magneto. However, back then, I forgot that Death Battle does these post-battle analysis and just watched the fight for the sake of it. And I decided I'd come back and watch the post-fight analysis to see, why Magneto won. Because I'm kind of curious now. So we're going to check it out.
You take the battle and it's over. Gotta drop my composure cause I'm staring into space. And now my heart's beating fast like a baby start a new chapter. I'll soon reveal the beast. There's a beast in my soul and it wants to evolve. Keep on pushing me so I can end it. Now the words leave your tongue. Where did that power come from? It's saying to do that place that you condemned to.
So as you guys can see, I have it down to here. So, Tetsuo's dead. So, yeah.
You are welcome.
KO!
Tetsuo! I'm never doing that again.
Tetsuo's esoteric telekinesis and other bizarre abilities certainly gave Magneto pause, but the Master of Magnetism had greater control over his foe.
The numbers don't lie. Tetsuo cratering the moon was insane, but Magneto punched Iron Man with the force of the sun. And while Tetsuo...
The force of the sun. What? Huh? Hold up. I knew that, Marvel comics were, BS when it comes to, power scaling. But the power of the sun, what does that infer? What does that entail? Yes, I'm gonna assume that's, stronger than Tetsuo cratering the moon, even though that, let's be fair, the moon crater was the size of a continent. But, continue.
jumped all the way to the moon, Magneto could move across galaxies.
Against Tetsuo in his human form, Magneto obviously held a sizable advantage in power and speed.
But stats aren't all that matters. With his precise telekinesis, Tetsuo could just target Magneto's organs. GG, right?
Yes, but Magneto had similar skills. There are very few substances on Earth that lack any metallic or magnetic component, and Magneto is very creative with his powers.
I forgot that Magneto had some BS. So, in case you guys don't know, Magneto doesn't actually have magnetokinesis. He actually has the ability to manipulate electromagnetism. I can't remember if there was a kinesis name for that. But essentially, with magnetokinesis, you can only manipulate things that are magnetic. But despite having themes of magnetism and calling himself the master of magnetism, his ability is electromagnetism manipulation, which is way more than just magnetism, and I will still never understand why Marvel advertises him as the master of magnetism or any of that. I understand that electromagnetism is a superior category to regular magnetism, which in turn technically makes him the master of magnetism. But inferring that he's the master of magnetism would also infer that his abilities are purely magnetic. But, yeah, continue.
Which he could use to predict Tetsuo's teleportation and even shut down his telekinesis. And his scraps with Xavier prove he could handle Tetsuo's messing with his head. The biggest challenge for Magneto was when Tetsuo's gross mutated power came into play.
Especially given how the detonations from this form were compared to that of a Big Bang. Although the authenticity of that observation is questionable. In truth, the Big Bang was a sudden expansion of matter on a universal scale, whereas Tetsuo's explosions are more akin to nuclear blasts.
Okay, so I'm gonna clarify this since they probably did research this, but I'm just gonna point this out that it is a Big Bang, and while yes, in the films, Tetsuo's explosion actually creates a new universe via the power of Akira. But the reason why they're considered a Big Bang in both the manga and anime is because in the manga, before Tetsuo was fixing to explode, both Akira and Tetsuo's telekinesis were intertwining to the point that it was starting to create a new universe, which in turn needed Akira to get shot and taken back to his senses. And also the fact that Tetsuo's explosion had to be countered by another Esper explosion, and a huge factor in it being called the Big Bang explosion of Akira is because when you read the manga, you will find that Kaneda is put through seeing all these memories and all this different stuff, which would involve quite the universal scaling, actually. So, yeah, that's essentially the reason why it's called the Big Bang Akira explosion. That's what I call it anyways. That's why it's considered Big Bang level.
Intentional given the post-war symbolism of the Akira story.
The whole creating an alternate universe bit wasn't even part of the original material, so we can't exactly call it.
Actually, it was. Just not for the explosion. For the explosion, it was a planetary threat, but for the actual alternate universe part itself, it was a part of the source material, where Akira and Tetsuo's telekinesis kept intertwining to the point it was making a new universe in the palm of mutated Tetsuo's hands.
Canon.
But let's just say the comparison wasn't superfluous. Let's say Tetsuo did in fact cause a Big Bang capable of creating or destroying an entire universe, alternate or otherwise.
Turns out Magneto had the tools to stop that too. Helmet Head could overpower Hercules, who was strong enough to hold up the skies of Olympus, which is literally heaven and an alternate universe.
What? Okay. I knew Marvel power scaling was ridiculous. But how can you hold the sky? What is there to hold? I don't understand. What is there to hold? You're just grasping air. You can't hold gas. You can't hold air. That doesn't make any sense. Like with Tetsuo's feats, they actually make sense when you look into them because there's actually something there. You can't hold the sky. I could technically go outside right now and hold the sky with my hands. Does that make me as strong as Hercules? No, because there's nothing there to hold. It's just air. Whatever, back to BS Marvel comic scaling.
This doesn't necessarily mean Magneto could easily destroy a universe with the snap of his fingers, but it does prove he can match a similar level of power. And context is everything. Tetsuo's Big Bang eruption specifically exhibited proton collapse, meaning its atomic structure was primarily an unstable mess of neutrons and electrons. And Magneto has detected and commanded unstable electrons before. This means Magneto had every means available to take control over this Big Bang.
Are we serious right now? I was wondering why that was. Okay. I can understand that, yeah. I can actually get behind that because that makes sense, given electromagnetism can manipulate protons, neutrons, electrons, and all that. I would know this because I've studied Magneto's abilities, so I can understand that, yeah.
Damn, and I thought he could just move some metal around. It's like the question.
That's what I used to think when I was 8 years old and just watching the Fox films. By the way, Toad and Pyro are still goated.
Posed by some of the greatest prophets of our time. Fucking magnets. How do they even work?
Magneto's astonishing power and intelligent control over all things magnetism triumphed in the end.
Tetsuo pushed his luck, but didn't have the metal to pull off the win.
The winner is Magneto. Thank you for
Alright, so, yeah, honestly, I hate to say it, but I'm not surprised. But what I will say is they kind of did something really dumb. So, this is where is it? Gotta find it. This is about the Hercules thing.
of that observation universal scale, whereas Tetsuo some of the
Find it.
Original material, so we
say Tetsuo alternate or otherwise.
Turns out Magneto had the tools to stop that too. Helmet Head could overpower Hercules, who was strong enough to hold up the sky.
Okay. So, the reason why I don't like that they use this feat, and I understand that they're gonna have to use like some sort of feat to justify Magneto winning. The reason why I don't like them using Magneto defeating Hercules is because you can tell that this feat came later after Magneto defeated Hercules. I'm sure this is like a prequel or something where Hercules did this before fighting Magneto, but the writers obviously at the time didn't know that Hercules was going to be able to do that because, as you can tell, this is an older comic art style, so that was Hercules' like strength feat over here, which is still ridiculous, by the way. It's still stupid. They definitely did not have that planned because, as you can tell, this is a newer comic by the fact that this is like in like HD quality, looks amazing, super detailed, all that. You get what I'm saying. So yeah, but the real reason why I don't like this feat is because, and this is something I actually tend to avoid with power scaling, is this guy beat that guy, thus he must have this thing kind of power scaling. The reason why I don't like that power scaling is because it's kind of like there's like really no justification behind it aside from the fact that this guy got beat by this guy. And the reason why I say this is because it happens a lot in like a lot of power scaling, honestly. So the reason why I do not like this is because there's really like no actual justification for it. And it actually ignores the fact that there are multiple factors in a fight aside from strength. So, like for example,
Turns out Magneto had the tools to stop.
For example, you can tell that Magneto's like using his powers to put Hercules down. Attack power and ability does not equate physical strength. And I'm going to preach that for a very long time. Because that's like, for example, saying that, I don't know, like Goku, let's say, hypothetically, Cell defeated Goku. Oh, no, wait. He kind of technically did. Hold on. Give me a minute. So let's say, hypothetically, Deborah defeated Goku. This is Goku who freshly showed his 40 metric tons, feat. That's not really a fair comparison because Deborah could have won from skill. Deborah could have won from speed. Like, there's multiple factors in a fight, and as you can tell, Magneto did not physically overpower Goober Lips over here. He used his abilities on Goober Lips, which is not the same. The attack power of an ability does not equate physical strength, which is why I don't like them using this feat. Because them using Hercules' feat and then saying that Magneto has that level of strength because he defeated Hercules does not make sense. when you quite literally look at the fact that you can tell Magneto's using his magnetism-based abilities on Hercules. So, yeah. That is the exact reason why I don't like it, because it's just really bad power scaling. It's the exact reason why I didn't use K49 being on par with K-Dash to justify physical strength. So, for example, apparently, if you go on Versus Wiki, I don't trust Versus Wiki, by the way, I take their stuff with a grain of salt, you will find that they say that K49 has 700 metric tons worth of physical strength. And when you go on to the website, you will find that they're saying this because K49 is comparable to K-Dash. And then when you go to K-Dash, they say that he has this level of physical strength because he defeated this one Kyo clone in a KOF 99 drama CD. And then in that KOF 99 drama CD, La-Di Da Trail, the Kyo clone, has absolutely no name and nothing. And the only thing justifying that this Kyo clone has this level of physical strength is the fact that he took out the Korea team. That's literally it. So, yeah, this is exactly the reason why I don't like these kind of, arguments for power scaling. But, yeah. Overall, they had some pretty justified reasons. I think the only thing I would really change of this is removing the Hercules feat. Removing the Hercules feat, and, I'm not a comic nerd, but where is it? Where's the part about him punching, Iron Man with the power of the sun?
Predict Tetsuo, prove he can gross mutant.
That of a big creative with his power. Black and yes, but Magneto had
Kinesis Tetsuo.
Power in
cratering the moon was insane, but Magneto punched.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna say this. I've not read the comics, so you can go in the comment section and correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems to be like a powered up Magneto. He's silver, he's not human. Yeah. The reason why I say this is because, come on, look at him. So yeah, I think that's the reason why. I'd have to go in to check what the heck is going on here. But yeah. So overall, they had some really good arguments. I think the only things I would really change is this feat and the Hercules feat. But anyways, that's all for now, and this is SJ Raikou signing off. Peace!